Hi, I'm Terry Murphy for the Women's Wisdom Network, Women in Business, Women in Real Estate, and in the men's room with Murph. And today we have a most prestigious man in the men's room. His name is Rick Deluca. You might know Rick from his years as the CRS instructor. He's been around the real estate industry, Rick, for how many years?
This is my 45th year.
45, and that's consecutive, kids. Yeah, you actually started back as a part-time agent back in '76, if I recall.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you being an overachiever, bought the company in your fifth year.
Yeah, it shows how bright I was. Yeah.
Yeah, but you went from 34 to 193 agents. I mean, come on, that's pretty ambitious. And you led the US in agent productivity. At that time, that was pretty significant.
Yeah, it's probably the crowning achievement of my entire career. Not my personal sales activity as much as the 192 agents that work for us were just incredible.
Isn't that something, how you can have a convergence of greatness all at the same time in this moment? I mean, I think that's terrific. Well, I know that. How long were you with CRS?
Gosh, Terry, I started I started teaching CRS in I guess it was like 1980, 82.
I was going to say 83, 84, because that's
Yeah,
when I remember.
82.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark Masivic, my mentor, actually. Mark was my mentor.
Was he?
Yeah, I was in Reno and he was in Vegas. And so
Ah,
we knew each other, and he took me under his wing and he said, "Oh, you need to get out there and start speaking." So 82, I became a CRS instructor. I think I was president in 88, and then Remini president in 92. And I think I stopped teaching CRS courses around 94 or something like that. So,
yeah. I should,
about 12 years.
yeah, I should not use the acronym Certified Residential Specialist designation. I will say that Mark Masivic was the reason that I became a top lister. I mean, that was my whole goal. After listening to him,
Yeah.
and I mean, I was brand new in the business. The interest rates are 28%. I'm still out
Yeah.
there knocking doors in the Chicago snowstorm. But what he taught, and he taught it so well, was that listing really controlled the market, and I did pretty well after that. Only about 100 a year. So I have to thank Mark, although Mark's no longer with us, but he was certainly an influence, obviously, on you and me. But
Yeah.
the purpose of this call, besides your amazing background in the real estate industry, and you continue, because now you're with Exit and you're a regional director at Exit Realty, and that's just relatively new, correct?
Yeah, actually, I went from March 1 last year. I took on the regional director role, and then 11 days later, COVID hit. And so, welcome to the big leagues.
Yeah.
And I once again, I said, "Oh, you know what? I don't think it's sufficient being a regional director." So I bought the region.
Yeah.
So I'm the regional owner for the 5 Western states, the most locked down states in the country.
Rick, I just got to say, this neurotic overachiever stuff we have is a problem. And timing. I get into the real estate industry when the interest rates are bizarre, and you
Yeah.
pick COVID, so I think we're even.
Yeah.
Well, no disrespect to either one. The good news is, though, that during your career, like all of us, we have a life, and during that life, you lost a son,
Yeah.
which spawned a nonprofit called Devons Destiny, and Devon was only 23.
Yep.
And I just what and you and I were speaking somewhere. I remember talking with you and not knowing this at all, and knowing of you all those years. But we were sharing the platform at some event, and you talked about Devon's Destiny, and I thought, what a remarkable initiative for homeless or disadvantaged children. And I'll let you tell the story, but it never left me, and that was many years ago. And I just thought, at this platform with Realty Times and this particular segment, I'd like for you to share what that did and how you did it. And even though it's no longer a nonprofit as of what, last year you said?
Yeah, last year.
That listening to this, you have the power to really create a beautiful experience for kids in your local area. Tell us what happened and how Devon's Destiny was born.
We lost Devon in 2009, and just a couple of days after Devon died, we as a family got together and and in our grief, and said, we firmly believe that Devon was put here for a purpose, greater than just his life. And we knew his heart. He loved kids. He did things that just he was in Chicago, Terry. He moved to Chicago. He was a bike messenger downtown Chicago.
No way.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Dangerous job.
yeah.
Dangerous.
He got hit. He got hit 3 times
Oh,
by cars. And but anyway, he'd call me. He called Robin, my wife, and me one night and said, "Yeah, I spent the night last night sleeping behind a dumpster in the alley." And we went, "What? Is it, I mean, did you get kicked out? I mean, do you need money to pay your rent? Or what's going on?" He goes, "Oh, no, no. It's just, he lived with like 3 other people." And he said, "No," he said, "everything's fine that way." He said, I've never really experienced what it's like to have to live, and not sleep in a home, in a house. And it was wintertime too." And he said, "So I decided last night I needed to sleep behind a dumpster where I thought it was fairly safe." And I just marveled, to have a heart like that. And then he called us once. He goes, "Oh yeah," and I said, "Well, put some money in your account." He goes, "No, Dad, I've got money." He said, "But I've never truly been hungry. I've never really been hungry, and I needed to find out what is it really like to be so hungry you just don't know what to do." And so he had a passion and a heart that I don't pretend to have. He just had to feel, experience it. So, unfortunately, runs on my side of the family. I lost my sister. She took her own life when she was 19, and I was 23. And then a year later, my mother took her own life.
I did not know
It's,
that.
yeah, it skipped me, skipped me totally, but got Devon. And
Okay.
so about 15, he started showing signs of clinical depression, and he tried everything. We tried everything. So at 23, Devon took his own life. And so when we gathered as family, we said Devon was here for a purpose. And just because he's no longer here doesn't mean that the purpose shouldn't be realized. And we said, I mean, this is literally 48 hours after he died. We said, we're going to start a foundation. We're going to call it Devons Destiny, but we're not sure what we're going to do. And that was in September of 2009. Probably a month, 2 months later, I was flying back home in Oregon, where I live, and having done a seminar, and I was reading an article about something. And it was just an article about homeless people, and it just struck me. And so when I got back home, I got our family together, and I said, I think this might be something Devlin would really get behind, and because he had a real heart for kids in particular. Kids were attracted to Devon, and he just had a real connection with them. And I said, I don't pretend to know, like a little old Bend, Oregon, where we live. You don't, at least at that time, you didn't see many homeless people, and certainly didn't see kids, on the corners with signs. Just didn't see that. And I said, I think we should do something particularly for the children that are victimized by being homeless, or what they call at risk. And and I said, I think we should maybe do something like a birthday party. And Robin and wife said, "Geez, I don't know that.
How are you going to do that?
Yeah, what's behind that? What's the thinking?" And I said, "Well, just think about it. If a child is homeless, or they're at risk of losing their home, and the money's pretty tight, and the parent has got to make a decision: do I pay for heat for the house? Do I pay for gasoline for the car? Do I buy a meal, or do I have a birthday party for my child and buy a birthday gift?" And as much as they like to, many times it's just not practical. It's not even possible. And I said, think about the child for a second, and what that must do to their psyche. What does it do to their self-esteem? To be one of the only kids perhaps in their class that doesn't have a birthday party like everybody else. And I think it's got to take a toll. It's got to damage a child in some ways. And as bad as the child feels, think about the parents and how bad they feel for not being able to give the child some kind of a birthday party. And so that was the idea. That's where it came from. And we all agreed that, yeah, let's do that. And so then I found out the reality of going through the mechanics of getting a 501c3 with the federal government, and accountants and attorneys and all that sort of stuff. But we did. So we launched it. It took 6 months. We launched it in June of 2010. And here, this will perhaps signal to many people that we're on the right course. There was an organization here in Bend, Oregon. It's called The Loft, and it's for children that are homeless, but they're emancipated. Their parents are either in prison or they're just gone somewhere. And so these kids are street kids. And so The Loft brings them in, gives them a place to, shelter and food, but in turn, they have to do something in the community. It's called Earn. And so we went to The Loft, Robin, Brandon, our younger son, and I, and we sat down with the director and said, we got this idea about birthday parties. And she said, oh, what a wonderful idea. And I said, I think we're ready to go. I think we're ready to start doing this, to do parties. Do you have anybody that has a birthday coming up? And she said, well, let me check. True story. She walked out of the conference room, came back a few minutes later. She goes, yeah, we actually have a girl that has a birthday coming up in a few days. And we said, oh, great. When's her birthday? And she said June 18th. And we just all looked at each other, tears in our eyes. That was Devon's birthday.
Oh, boom. Okay, that just gave me chills.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So our very first birthday was on Dev's birthday.
Oh, that's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
But
So
what were the mechanics behind it?
yeah, what we decided to do, it was an eye-opening experience in many ways. I actually went to a shelter, talked to the director of a shelter, and he pointed something out. He said, I just, I think it's a wonderful idea. You're going to help kids. He said, but let me give you the perspective of someone who is homeless or in need. He said, typically what happens is during the holidays, we're just inundated with food and gifts and all the wonderful things. And the holidays are over and people go back to their lives, and we have another 50 weeks to get through until the next holiday. He said that's the real world. And he said, and secondly, and he said, I understand it, but people come and they bring the things, and they like to see the people that they're giving these things to, their eyes light up and a smile on their face. So they want to be present to watch that. And what they don't realize is that for many of the people, it's very awkward. They never dreamed they'd be in this position. And it makes it even more difficult for them to be in front of people to say, hey, thank you, for this, but it's just awkward. And so I took that into consideration, and I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We went to different pizza parlors around our community, a couple of surrounding communities, and I made arrangements with them that what we decided to do is that we're going to host a birthday party for a child and 12 guests. And so in advance, we pay for the pizzas, pay for the soft drinks, pay for some decorations. We have the table reserved in the child's name. And then Brandon, our younger son who ran this for 11 years, he would, we get a request of what kind of gifts the child actually would like. And then he would go out and buy the gift, and then he would wrap it, and we would bring it to the pizza parlor before the party. So when the child showed up with their family and their friends, the tables are reserved, decorations are on it, and the gifts are wrapped and being held for the child. And so they're done anonymously. We've not seen a birthday party. As much as I'd love to be a fly on the wall, the last thing that Devon would have wanted would be to get credit for doing something
Right.
like that. And so we fought the temptation to go get a table in a corner to see what happened, and we just never did that. And during the economic crash, from pretty much 2007, 8, 9, 10, our population in Central Oregon is about 125,000 people total. There were months that we were doing 20, 22 birthday parties a month.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we budget, a dollar amount for each party. For the gifts, the pizza parlors gave us half price, which was very, wonderful of them to do that. And we just did it through private donations. And we have gotten some feedback. It just I've got a little envelope with some cards, and I remember getting a little card by a 6 or 7-year-old, and the handwriting was like a 6-year-old, right? And it said, "Dear Devon, thank you for my birthday party."
Oh my. That
Yeah,
was,
had a dollar bill in it, and it says, "I get $1 for every A I get in school. And so here's my dollar I got. And it basically said, use this to buy another gift for another child for their birthday. So we got those, and in that case, we would get like a check or a $20 bill in the mail, and it would be from, typically it was a mother who said, a year ago, I was homeless. We're really at the end of our rope, and you provide a birthday party for my daughter, and I'm back on my feet. I have a job. We're living in an apartment now, and so here's $20 to help someone else with their birthday party. So we
Nice.
have seen some of that. It's been very
And
rewarding.
that would be like Devon. According to all of the posts and everything I've read, um, he just he just wanted to share love.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful way to do it. And anonymously, as I think you beautifully explained, is a way that allows them dignity, right, to give their kids. Uh, is there an average cost on? I mean, was there an average budget for it?
Yeah. We budgeted $75 for party because the pizza parlors, as I said, half off. They charge us like 32.50 for the pizzas and the soft drinks. And so that left like $40 to buy some gifts. And
Right,
so we were able to get some nice gifts. But we've also, we trial and error, we learned early on there are certain gifts that are not practical. I mean, a number of these people they're living in a car.
right.
And so you don't want to give the 6-year-old a big fire engine,
Yeah,
that he can't do anything with. And so we learned some lessons like that. We learned some tough lessons too. When I went to the school district here and with the idea initially, Brooke Franson, and she's now retired, and I told her the idea, and she just smiled and she looked at me. She goes, "It's a wonderful idea." And I said, "Well, do we even have many homeless kids in Bend, Oregon?" And she just turned around her computer and typed, and she goes, "Well, right now we have 1,109 homeless children in our school district in a community of 100,000 people." And I mean, I was shocked, absolutely shocked. But then she said something, just the reality of the world. She said, "You need to know two things. When you set this up with wonderful intentions that you have, you need to recognize that the homeless community has a communication network that will rival the federal government. Word will spread like wildfire through this community, and you may be inundated." She goes, "And then the second thing you need to know, and this is the tough part," she said, "probably 25% of the parents you'll deal with should not be parents." And we found ourselves in some awkward situations occasionally, and so we learned the hard way when we bought a gift for a child. Let's say Walmart, and we bought some things, then we would cut off the barcodes,
so they
and
couldn't
wrap them
return
so
them.
they couldn't return them, to get something that
Oh,
they wanted.
right.
And so that's the third. Yeah, and I was so naive, I just had no concept of that sort of situation. And so we also told some of the many of the parties we orchestrated through what they call advocates. All the schools have an advocate, and technically they're the only ones who know who the homeless children are. And so we would do probably half the parties coordinated through the advocates. The other half we dealt directly with the parents, and that was challenging too because a lot of times they didn't have a cell phone. So we had to come up with ways to communicate. And we would hear stories. I told Brandon at the outset early on, I said, because he's the one who fielded these calls, not me. My job was to get it structured and then keep the money coming into it to keep it going. But he's the one who answered all the phone calls. And I said, your toughest job is going to be to learn how to say no. Because when you're a nonprofit and people are desperate, they will call every nonprofit for their needs. We were specifically provided birthday parties for at-risk and homeless children, but we'd get a call from the grandmother who said, "My daughter's in prison and the husband just showed up with the 6-year-old in a diaper bag and said, 'I don't want him anymore. He's yours,' and leaves, drives away." And she goes, "I don't know what to do." She's calling everybody. She's calling churches. She's calling everybody, including Devons Destiny. And so there were many times that Brandon had to say, "Geez, I'm sorry, we can't do that." And then there were many times where hey, you're in trouble. We're
Yeah.
gonna run to Walmart, buy a bunch of diapers, and we're gonna do the stuff that needs to be done. So, um, we shut it down last year because Brandon's in nursing school and it's about 50 hours a week and doesn't have the time. But we've been out there so long that pretty much everybody knows who we are. And I mean, I got this yesterday. This is Caitlin, and so this is our request form right here. And there's a birthday party that she would like a birthday party. Well, with COVID, we can't use the pizza parlors right now. And
Wow.
so what we're doing is we get the pizzas and we get the soft drinks. And so we pay for them and they go pick them up and they take them to wherever they want to, do it. So, when Wednesday, March 17th is when they'd like to do this. And then we ask them, birthday present suggestions. And so Caitlin said something native inspired, sage bundle, something for a wall, a new journal, so it's really helped us to get something that the child really wants,
Right.
rather than thinking this would be a wonderful gift, who are we to make that decision? Right?
I don't think any of us can buy kids gifts anymore because
Yeah.
it's complicated.
Well, my dad, and every seminar I've ever done, I think I talk about my dad because I learned more from him than anybody on earth. He's the greatest salesman in the world, 8th grade education from Chicago, by the way. Um, he taught me something that not only helped me in my real estate career, but helps us immensely in things like this. He said this, he said, don't ever try to be to answer someone's prayers until you know what they're praying for.
That's profound.
Yeah.
How smart is that?
Yeah. So that's why we ask, what is it that you'd like? And
That's such a smart answer because some kids would really just like socks,
yeah,
and that doesn't sound
absolutely.
like a present.
Yeah,
So if someone was listening to this and they wanted to start this in their own community and not necessarily just on their own, like you're doing, not through any kind of a nonprofit,
mhm.
what is there kind of a checklist or a thought process you might say? I mean, who do you contact to find out where homeless children are? The school? I would have never thought of the school.
Yeah. Well, that's where I ended up. I think I went to 3, 4 different people and they kept directing me to different people and finally got to Brooke Franson. Um, but probably the place to start and to use the terminology would be helpful. And I think because I have helped other people around the country set up, the same kind of a thing. Long Island, New York they have a huge organization there.
Sure. Got
Uh,
some great people in Long Island.
yeah, that's doing this. And so the first step probably would be to go to the schools, go to shelters and find out, is there a school advocate? Do they have advocates in the schools that again, technically they're the ones who know who the homeless kids are, um, and at-risk kids. And so we dealt extensively with the advocates in the schools because most advocates had like 2 schools they were responsible for. And so they're the ones that would either direct the parents to get a hold of you, or they say, hey, I know this child and maybe you guys can help. And so that's where you go to the shelters, tell them, you'd like to help with, some kids and what they might need for a birthday party. And because we made sure that the parents knew that we really didn't want credit for it. We'd rather through the eyes of the child, the parents get the credit for giving them a birthday party. And granted, I'm sure many of the parents probably told their child that, hey, there's these people helping us, but I'm sure many of them took credit, and I hope that comes across the right way. We wanted them to take credit,
Right.
because just as a child suffers self-esteem, the parents going to get hit pretty hard too. Yeah,
That's really a brilliant way to end this. And clearly, um, your family's loss was the gain of countless children,
yeah,
and how they're paying it forward. That little dollar was worth millions.
yeah,
And the mom who's paid back. I mean, I think we often forget about the parents and the helplessness they feel because they feel responsible. So many blessings to you and the Deluca family for doing what you have done. I know that you're going to do great at Exit. One of these days we're going to retire, probably not too soon. It's sort of like once you're out there, Rick, they're going to find you.
yeah.
But we appreciate you sharing on the Women's Wisdom Network, something that I think will be able to be duplicated all across the country. And it's all because of you and your wife and your family, for Devon's Destiny. Thanks so much for joining us. If someone wanted to reach you, what's the best way to do that?
Probably the best way would just, probably my email address, my personal one, it's rick@rickdeluca.com, Deluca, rick@rickdeluca.com, comes right to me. And
All
I'm
right.
happy to help people if they want to explore ways that they might be able to help in their community. I'm happy to do that.
We just love sharing wisdom of other people, and I know it's going to help people beyond your knowing. I love the legacy. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I'm Terry Murphy. Thank you for joining us on the Women's Wisdom Network with Rick DeLuca. Go out there and make it a great day for somebody. Take care.